Deep in space, far beyond the stars humans could see with their eyes, a huge alien fleet moved silently through the void. These ships were unlike anything ever built by human hands. They were long, dark, and covered in strange glowing lines that pulsed like veins. The aliens who flew them called themselves the Vrak. They believed they were the strongest species in the galaxy, the true apex predators. The Vrak had crushed many civilizations before. They did not come in peace. They came to take what they wanted, and they always won. But now, for the first time, in centuries they were about to meet something new, something unexpected. On Earth, life went on as usual. Cities buzzed with people, kids went to school, workers drove to jobs, and scientists looked up at the sky with curiosity. Few knew that. Something big was coming. Even fewer were ready. In a small town in Texas, Lena Carter sat on her porch drinking coffee and watching the sunrise. She was a Marine captain stationed at a lunar base, but she was on leave. Tall, strong, and sharp-eyed, Lena didn't look like someone who would crack jokes while holding a weapon, but she was exactly that kind. She looked up at the sky and frowned. Something felt off. Her gut told her something was happening. She had been trained to trust her instincts. Far away in California, Eli Martinez was working late in a lab buried under a university campus. He was young, barely 30, but already one of the top minds in drone warfare and artificial intelligence. His hair was messy, his clothes wrinkled, and he hadn't shaved in days. He lived for tech, and tech loved him back. He stared at a screen filled with code, muttering to himself. Then his phone rang. It wasn't a normal ring. It was a secure line from the government. "Martinez," he said after answering. "Eli, this is command. We need you in Denver. Now." "What's going on?" "Something just entered our solar system. And it's not ours." He blinked. "You're kidding." "No joke. Get moving." He hung up, grabbed his jacket, and ran out the door. Meanwhile, high above the planet, the Vrak fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel. Sensors across the world picked up the energy spike, and alarms began to sound. Within minutes, every major military force on Earth was on alert. At United Nations headquarters in Geneva, General Harold Boone stood in a war room filled with flashing screens and worried officers. He was old, grizzled, and had seen more wars than most books recorded. He wore a uniform that showed decades of service. "What do we know?" he asked. "Massive unidentified fleet entering orbit. No signals, no contact attempts yet." "They'll come," he said calmly. "And when they do, we'll be ready." Back in Texas, Lena got a message on her wrist device. It was short. "Report to duty. Immediate recall." She sighed, finished her coffee, and stood up. "Guess vacation's over," she muttered. In Denver, Eli arrived at a hidden bunker beneath a military base. Dozens of scientists and soldiers were already there, looking at live feeds from satellites. "What are we seeing?" he asked. "Look for yourself," a woman said, pointing at a large screen. There, hanging in space above the Earth, were the Vrak ships. Massive, silent, waiting. "They're watching us," someone whispered. "No," Eli said. "They're judging us." Then, suddenly, one ship detached from the fleet and began descending toward the planet. "They're making contact," another officer said. General Boone stepped forward. "Then let's show them who they're dealing with." Hours later, the Vrak envoy landed near Geneva. The ship was black and angular with no visible doors or windows. Then, without warning, the ground split open and a ramp extended. From inside came a creature unlike any human had ever seen. It was tall, with thick limbs, armor-like skin, and eyes that glowed red. It walked slowly, confidently, like it owned the world already. Behind it, two smaller beings followed. They looked like servants or guards. The humans met them with guns, yes, but also with calm. They didn't panic. They didn't run. Lana was there, standing with her team, watching everything. She leaned over to her partner and whispered, "Looks like a walking meat locker." He snorted quietly. The Vrak envoy spoke through a translator. Its voice was deep and cold. "We are the Vrak. We are the highest form of life. Surrender now, or be erased." General Boone stepped forward. He looked the alien in the eye and said, "We've heard that before." The alien tilted its head. "You refuse?" "We do." For the first time, the Vrak hesitated. They had expected fear, begging, maybe even worship. Instead, they found quiet strength. But they were still confident. They had wiped out entire planets with less resistance. As the envoy turned to leave, it said, "Then you will die like insects." Lana smirked. "Tell your boys to bring bug spray." Some of the soldiers nearby chuckled. The Vrak left, returning to their ship. Once they were gone, the humans gathered. "They don't know what they're getting into," Boone said. "No, sir," Lana agreed. "They really don't." Eli watched the footage again. He saw something others missed. The Vrak weren't just arrogant. They were predictable. "They think they're invincible," he said. "That's their first mistake." Boone nodded. "Let's make sure it's their last." Above the planet, the Vrak fleet prepared for war. Below, humanity did the same. And somewhere deep inside, the Vrak didn't realize it yet. But they had just made the biggest mistake of their lives. The Vrak envoy returned to the fleet orbiting Earth. Inside the command ship, a council of Vrak leaders gathered. They reviewed the footage from the meeting below. The humans had not shown fear. They had not begged. Some had even laughed. This was wrong. In the Vrak's long history of conquest, every species had either fled or fallen to panic. But these humans stood tall. They spoke with calm. They were not impressed. "They do not understand," said the lead Vrak commander. "They will learn." Back on Earth, the response was swift. Military bases across the planet went into full alert. Satellites repositioned. Defense drones powered up. Weapon systems came online. Lana Carter sat in a briefing room at the lunar base, watching the same footage the Vrak were studying. She leaned back in her chair and smirked. "They didn't like that we weren't scared," she said. "Nope," said her friend Jake, another Marine. "I bet they're real mad right now." Meanwhile, Eli Martinez was deep underground in the Denver bunker. He worked quickly, running simulations and checking data from the Vrak ship. What he found made him pause. "They jammed our signals when they landed," he muttered. "But only for a few seconds. They tested us." A woman next to him named Nina looked over. "You think this was a test?" "Yeah," he said, "and I think they failed it." Above them, General Harold Boone stood outside, looking up at the sky. The Vrak ship still hung there, silent and waiting. He knew what was coming. War. He turned to his aide. "Tell all units, prepare for first strike. We won't be the ones to start it, but we'll be ready when they do." Not long after, the Vrak made their move. From high orbit, they launched a series of precision orbital strikes. The goal was clear: shock and awe. They targeted major cities: New York, Tokyo, Cape Town, Rio de Janeiro. But just before impact, something strange happened. Their targeting systems failed. Missiles missed by miles. Beams of energy scattered into space. Bombs fell harmlessly into oceans. On board the Vrak command ship, alarms blared. "What is happening?" roared the commander. "Our systems are being disrupted," a tech shouted. "Something down there is interfering." It was Eli. Hours earlier, he had deployed a network of stealth signal jammers hidden inside old satellite relays. The Vrak had no idea they existed until it was too late, but the Vrak were not done. One of their scout ships broke formation and dove toward the planet. It aimed for Geneva, where the United Nations headquarters stood. "They're coming in hot," Nina warned, watching the screens light up. General Boone gave one order: intercept. Within minutes, a group of small, fast human fighter jets shot into the sky. They were not alone. Dozens of autonomous combat drones joined them, moving with perfect coordination. The Vrak scout ship fired. Its weapons were powerful, but slow to reload. The drones danced around the blast, striking with speed and precision. Below, Lana watched the fight unfold on a screen. "Come on," she whispered. Then, with a flash, one of the drones hit the Vrak ship's engine. It spun out of control. "Got it," someone shouted. The alien craft exploded in a ball of fire. Silence followed. On the Vrak command ship, the Council stared at the burning wreckage on their screens. How? One of them asked. They should not have been able to fight back so fast, said another. They are not prey, said the commander slowly. They are hunters. Back on Earth, the mood was different. People cheered. Soldiers high-fived. Even in the war room, there was a sense of pride. Nina looked at Eli. We just took down an alien warship. He nodded. Yeah, and we did it without even breaking a sweat. Lana got a message on her wrist device. It read, "Prepare for deployment. Hostile landing detected." She grabbed her gear and ran. Above the planet, the Vrak fleet shifted. They were no longer sure of their dominance. The humans had proven they could fight. Worse, they had done it with ease. The commander made a new order. Prepare for full-scale assault. Down below, General Boone looked up at the sky once more. Let them come, he said. And somewhere deep in the Vrak fleet, doubt began to grow. These humans were not weak. They were not afraid. They were something new. And for the first time in centuries, the Vrak felt something unfamiliar. Uncertainty. The sky over Colorado lit up like fire. Not from the sun, but from the Vrak ships breaking through the atmosphere. They came fast and silent, aiming for remote areas far from major cities. The Vrak had learned their lesson. They would not underestimate these humans again. But it was already too late. On the ground, Lana Carter stood inside a half-buried command bunker near the Rocky Mountains. She wore her combat gear, her boots dusty from running drills just hours ago. Now there was no time. For drills, this was real. She looked at the screen showing Vrak landing zones. They're spreading out, she said. Trying to avoid big fights, said Jake, her teammate and close friend. Smart. Not smart enough, Lana replied. In Denver, deep inside the underground war room, Eli Martinez stared at a live feed of Vrak ground forces deploying across the map. He tapped commands into his keyboard, pulling up data on each unit. They think they can sneak in, he muttered. We've been waiting for them. General Harold Boone entered the room, his face hard as stone. What's the status? Vraki. Troops are on the ground, Nina reported. They're using stealth tech, but we picked them up. Good, Boone said. Then let's show them what we do to guests who crash the party. High above Earth, the Vrak command ship hovered, silently. Inside, the lead commander watched reports come in. Our ground teams have landed, said an officer. They report no resistance yet. Humans always make noise, the commander said. Where is theirs? Back on the ground, the first. Vrak squad moved through a forest outside Colorado Springs. Their armor blended into the shadows, their weapons glowing faintly. They were silent, deadly, and confident. They didn't see it coming. From behind a ridge, a line of human soldiers opened fire. High-powered railguns and plasma rifles lit up the night. Explosions tore through the Vrak formation. One of the aliens roared in pain. Ambush, another shouted. But it wasn't just one ambush. It was everywhere. In Alaska, Arizona, New Mexico, Texas. Everywhere the Vrak tried to land, they were met with immediate resistance. The humans had prepared long before this day. Hidden bases, drone nests, and sniper towers had been built in secret, waiting for exactly this moment. Lana led her team through the trees, moving fast. Her comms crackled. Team 2 in position, came a voice. Team 3 ready, said another. She keyed her mic. Then let's dance. The battle was brutal but short. The Vrak were strong and fast, but the humans had something better. Terrain knowledge, teamwork, and the will to fight. Deep in the forest, Lana spotted movement. She raised her rifle and fired. A Vrak soldier staggered back, its armor cracked. Another charged her, swinging a massive blade. She ducked and rolled, then drove a shock baton into its side. The Vrak screamed and fell. Jake ran up beside her. You okay? Yeah, she said, catching her breath. But I think that one wanted to. Take me home. He laughed and slapped her shoulder. Later, still got work to do. Meanwhile, Eli sat in front of a large display showing the Vrak fleet in orbit. Their ships were engaging human satellites and defense platforms. Their attacks are sloppy, he said. They're reacting instead of leading, Nina added. Because they're scared, Eli said. They thought this would be easy. Now they're losing control. On board the Vrak flagship, panic was growing. Earth defenses are too strong. Our ground forces are being wiped out. They know our tactics. The commander slammed his fist on the table. This cannot be happening. They are animals. No, said a younger Vrak officer. They are something else. Contact the other fleets, the commander ordered. Send more units, destroy everything. Back on Earth, General Boone saw the Vrak fleet begin to shift. They're getting desperate, he said. Should we pull back? Someone asked. Hell. No, Boone said. We push harder. He turned to a nearby officer. Get me all command units, we're launching Phase 2. Above the skies of California, a group of modified cargo ships launched from hidden launch bays beneath the ocean. These weren't normal ships. They carried a surprise gift for the Vrak. Eli watched the launch on his screen. His hands flew across the keyboard. Let's see how you like fighting your own toys, he whispered. Inside the Vrak fleet, early warning systems began to beep. Enemy contact. Behind us. Before they could react, the stolen Vrak drones hit. These machines had been reprogrammed by Eli and his team. They knew the Vrak fighter patterns, their weaknesses, their formations. And now, they turned against their creators. Ships exploded in silence. Communications broke down. Panic spread. Below, Lana heard a loud boom overhead. Was that us? Jake asked. Yep, she said, smiling. That was definitely us. Far away, in the heart of the Vrak command ship, the leader looked around, at the chaos. His people were dying. His fleet was falling apart. And worst of all, he was afraid. For the first time in Vrak history, the so-called apex predator found itself hunted, and the hunters were humans. The once confident commander took a step back from his console. Abort mission, he said quietly. His officers stared at him. What? Pull back. Regroup. We need to reassess. A junior officer whispered. We are retreating? The commander did not answer. He only watched the burning wreckage of his fleet drift through space and realized something terrifying. They had come here expecting a conquest. Instead, they had walked into a trap, and the humans hadn't even started playing fair yet. The Vrak were not used to losing. They had wiped out entire civilizations without breaking a sweat. But now their fleet was burning, their ground forces were being torn apart, and for the first time in centuries, they felt something unfamiliar. Fear. Back on Earth, the mood was different. People weren't hiding or panicking. They were watching the battle unfold on live feeds, cheering every human victory, and sharing memes about the confused alien invaders. One video of Lana Carter fighting off 3 Vrak soldiers with a railgun, and a knife went viral across the planet. It ended with her saying, "You boys really thought this was going to be easy, didn't you?" In Denver, deep inside the underground war room, Eli Martinez leaned back in his chair, staring at the screen showing Vrak losses. He sipped cold coffee and smiled. They're cracking, he said. Nina, the tech beside him, nodded. Their command structure's falling apart. They don't know what to do next. Across the room, General Harold Boone watched the same footage. His face showed no joy, only quiet satisfaction. They came here thinking we'd roll over, he said. They forgot one thing about humans. We adapt. Outside, the sky above Colorado was still filled with smoke from the earlier battles. On the ground, Lana Carter sat with her team, checking weapons and resting between fights. Jake, her friend and teammate, handed her a bottle of water. You ever think we'd be fighting aliens in the woods? He asked. Not really, she said, taking a drink. But I'm glad we're the ones doing it. Why's that? Because if anyone deserves to punch these guys in the face, she said, it's us. Above them, the Vrak commander made a desperate decision. He ordered the release of a bioweapon, a nanite virus designed to break down organic matter. It was invisible, fast-spreading, and deadly. The Vrak believed it would end the fight in their favor. They were wrong. On Earth, Eli picked up on the change in Vrak behavior almost immediately. Something's happening, he said, scanning data streams. They just released something into the atmosphere. What kind of something? Nina asked. He ran more tests, cross-checking old files and research papers, then he relaxed. We've seen this before. What? This isn't new. We already have defenses against this kind of attack. Remember the pandemics? The synthetic plagues? We built immunity protocols years ago. Nina stared at him. So, it won't work on us? Nope, Eli said. And guess what? He typed quickly, pulling up a new program. We can use it against them. Within hours, Eli and his team reprogrammed the VRAC virus. Instead of targeting humans, it now attacked VRAC biology. The modified version spread through the alien ships like wildfire. Inside the VRAC flagship, panic broke out. Our systems are failing. Soldiers are collapsing. The virus, it's mutating. The VRAC commander looked around in horror as his own weapon turned against him. This cannot be happening, he growled. On Earth, General Boone got the report. Good work, Eli, he said. Now let's finish this. He gave a single order. Operation Black Dawn was a go. In space, hidden behind the moon, a group of human warships powered up. These were not normal vessels. They were experimental, built using a mix of stolen and reverse-engineered VRAC tech. As they launched toward the VRAC fleet, Eli watched from below. Let's see how they like getting hit with their own toys. The VRAC tried to regroup, but it was too late. The human ship struck hard and fast, hitting weak points in the alien formation. Explosions lit up the dark like stars being born. Lana stood outside the bunker looking up at the sky. You hear that? Jake asked. Yeah, she said. That's the sound of aliens getting their butts kicked. Back on the VRAC flagship, the commander roared in anger. Pull back. Retreat. His officers hesitated. Sir, we can still fight. No, he said. We must leave. Now. For the first time in history, the VRAC were running. Below, on Earth, people gathered outside. They watched the VRAC ships begin to flee. Some cheered, others simply stood in awe. General Boone stepped outside, feeling the wind on his face. They came here thinking they were the strongest, he said quietly. They left knowing they weren't. Inside the war room, Eli received a final message from a captured VRAC system. He read it out loud. Do not underestimate the primates. He laughed. Too late for that. Far away in the darkness of space, the last VRAC ships disappeared into the void. They would never return. And somewhere deep in the human command center, a plan was already forming. Not for defense, not for peace. For expansion, humans had proven they could protect their world. Now it was time to show the galaxy what else they could do. The VRAC were gone, but their final message still echoed through human command channels. Do not underestimate the primates. It was a warning, a confession, and maybe even a bit of respect wrapped into one. On Earth, the war was over, but the world had changed forever. People who once looked up at the stars with wonder now did so with confidence. The idea that humans were weak, easy prey for stronger alien species had been shattered like glass. In Texas, Lana Carter sat on her porch again, just like before the invasion began. She held a cup of coffee and watched the sunrise. But this time, she wasn't just a soldier on leave, she was a symbol. Her fight against 3 VRAC soldiers had become legend, shared across every screen, printed on posters, even painted on walls in city alleys. Kinda weird, Jake said, sitting beside her. Used to be nobody knew who we were. Now, everyone wants to know our story, Lana said with a grin. Guess we should get used to it. Back in Denver, deep inside the underground war room, Eli Martinez leaned back in his chair and stared at the ceiling. His fingers twitched like they always did when he was thinking too fast. Nina walked in with 2 cups of coffee and handed one to him. You look like you're about to break something, she said. Just thinking, he replied. About what? The VRAC had a superweapon, he said. They didn't use it. Maybe they were bluffing. No, Eli said. They really had it. I found references in their data logs. Something big. Hidden in the asteroid belt. Nina's eyes widened. You think it's still there? Yeah, he said. And if it's still there, someone needs to make sure it never gets used. Above them, General Harold Boone stood, outside the bunker looking up at the sky. He wore his uniform, clean and sharp, but his face showed years of hard decisions. A young officer approached. "Sir, we've confirmed it. The last Vrak ships have left our system." Boone nodded. "Good. What do we do now?" he thought for a moment. Then he said, "We go after what they left behind." Not long after, a mission was formed. A small team would travel to the asteroid belt to find the hidden weapon. If it was real, it had to be destroyed or controlled. Lana got the call first. "Thought you were done with missions," Jake teased. "Guess I'm not done yet," she said. Eli joined next. So did a few others, pilots, engineers, scientists. They weren't going to start a war, but they weren't going to leave a threat behind either. Weeks later, the ship Freedom's Edge launched from a hidden base beneath the Pacific Ocean. It was fast, stealthy, and packed with everything needed for deep space. Inside, Lana checked her gear while watching the Earth shrink on the view screen. "Never thought I'd be flying into space," she muttered. "Welcome to the future," Eli said, sitting nearby. "It's full of surprises." The journey took weeks. As they passed Mars and entered the asteroid belt, tension grew. Nobody knew what they would find. Then, near a large, dark rock floating silently in space, they saw it. A massive structure, half buried in the asteroid, covered in Vrak symbols and glowing lines. It pulsed faintly like it was still alive. "That's it," Eli whispered. "The Vrak superweapon." They docked and sent a team inside. The place was cold, empty, and filled with strange machines. "Feels like a tomb," one of the soldiers said. "Could be," Lana replied. "But tombs sometimes hold ghosts." Eli scanned the systems. What he found made his blood run cold. "This thing can destroy entire planets," he said. "If it's activated, it'll fire a beam strong enough to wipe out life on Earth." "Can you shut it down?" Lana asked. "Maybe," he said. "But if I mess up, it might activate instead." Silence filled the room. "Then don't mess up," she said. He smiled nervously and got to work. Outside, the rest of the team waited. Minutes ticked by like hours. Then finally, Eli's voice came over comms. "Done, it's dead." Everyone exhaled, but then the lights in the structure flickered. Anyone else see that?" Jake asked. "Elaborate," Lana said into her. "Mike, it's waking up," Eli said. Everyone moved fast. Explosives were placed, weapons were readied. "Get ready to blow this thing," Lana ordered. As alarms blared and red lights flashed, the team ran for the exit. Behind them, the machine groaned like a sleeping beast disturbed. Just as they reached the ship, Eli hit the detonator. The explosion tore through the asteroid. The weapon vanished in a flash of light and heat. Back aboard Freedom's Edge, they watched the wreckage float away. "Well," Lana said, catching her breath. "That was fun." "Fun?" Jake asked. "You call that fun? Compared to fighting Vrak on the ground?" She grinned. "Absolutely." Eli leaned back in his seat. "We just destroyed an alien superweapon and proved we belong out here," Lana added. As they turned the ship back toward Earth, the galaxy felt a little smaller, and humanity a lot bigger. They had fought off an enemy that thought itself unstoppable. Now they were showing the stars that humans were more than survivors. They were explorers. They were warriors, and they were just getting started. The stars used to feel far away. Now they felt like home. Months had passed since the Vrak were driven from Earth. The world was healing, rebuilding, and preparing for what came next. Cities that had seen battle were being restored. Families reunited. Soldiers returned to quiet lives, or tried to. But something had changed. Humans no longer looked up at the sky with fear. They looked up with purpose. In Texas, Lana Carter stood in front of a crowd of young recruits at a new training base built high in the mountains. She wore her uniform, but not for show, because she still had work to do. "You're here because you want to protect Earth," she said. "But also because you want to go beyond it." She looked out at the faces watching her. Some were nervous. Some were excited. All were ready to learn. The Vrak thought they were the strongest, she continued. They thought they were the top of the food chain. But we showed them something better than strength. She paused. We showed them heart. Across the country in California, Eli Martinez sat in a lab that wasn't hidden underground anymore. It was open, filled with light and buzzing with scientists and engineers from all over the world. They weren't just studying alien tech now, they were improving it. Eli tapped on his tablet, looking at blueprints for a new kind of space station. One that could move between planets, carry supplies, and even defend itself if needed. Nina walked up beside him. You ever think we'd be building our own alien-grade tech? She asked. Not really, he said. But here we are. What's next? He smiled. Everything. Back in Geneva, General Harold Boone stepped down from command for the first time in decades. He handed over his badge, his rank, and his responsibilities. I've done my part, he told the new commander. Now it's your turn. He walked out into the sun, breathing fresh air instead of bunker filters. For the first time in years, he didn't have a war to plan for, or a threat to prepare against, just peace and possibility. On the moon, a small group of workers finished installing the final piece of a statue near the edge of a crater. It showed a lone soldier standing tall, holding a rifle in one hand and a seedling in the other. A message was carved beneath it. The so-called Apex just found a new standard. Below, on Earth, kids watched videos of the battles, not as horror stories, but as legends. They played games where they piloted drones, flew ships, and led missions to distant stars. One boy looked at his friend and said, I want to go out there. You can, the friend replied. We're not just stuck on Earth anymore. Above the planet, human ships moved through space like birds learning to fly. Some carried cargo, some carried explorers, some carried soldiers, but not for war, for protection, for discovery, for the future. And somewhere deep in the galaxy, a wreck ship drifted silently through dark space. Its crew was tired, wounded, and afraid. Inside the command room, the once proud leader stared at a map showing where Earth was. He remembered the last message he sent to his people before leaving orbit. Do not underestimate the primates. Now, he added something else. Never return. His officers looked at him. We won't fight them again? One asked. No, the commander said. They are no longer prey. They are predators, maybe even kings. He turned away from the screen. Leave this system. Never look back. Back on Earth, life went on. People laughed. People loved. People dreamed. And in every dream, there was a star. A place to go. A challenge to meet. A future waiting. Humans had proven they could survive an invasion. They had proven they could win a war. Now they were proving they could build something better. Something bigger. Something that reached beyond the clouds and into the unknown. Because they weren't just animals. They weren't just survivors, they were humans, and the galaxy, it had just met its new apex.